and, see your vision and all the hard work that you're.
Hello. So we are back with new episode of the Cloud Data Talks, and we have Bart Farrell here, who is the organizer of DOK community, Data on Kubernetes, which many folks are already aware of, right? So we will learn like how he started the cloud native space journey and what is the cloud. He has dealt with this from a long time, right? So he's the nice person to ask about this thing. So going forward, let's deep dive into the same. So let me introduce myself. I'm Rohit Ghumare. I'm going to share various insights in the future for the Cloud Native Talks, and here I am with Bart Farrell. So let's Bart, you can give the quick introduction and we can start off.
All right, cool. Thank you very much. It's wonderful to be here, and I can't exactly remember when I first came across the work that you were doing, but I would say at least a year, but I would have to check. Whoa. But still, it's just been incredible to see all the things that you're doing, and knowing what you're doing right now, what you'll be doing in the future is amazing. And I think is a massive inspiration to a lot of people out there. I saw that, you've been going to some in-person events, and for people to be able to connect with you and, see your vision and all the hard work that you're putting in is great. And so I'm glad that you're getting recognition for the stuff that you're doing, because sometimes it feels like it might take longer than you'd like it for people to notice all the things that are happening. But in that regard, for people who I haven't interacted with, my name is Bart Farrell. I'm originally from the United States. I've been living in Spain for the last 11 years. I live in the north of Spain, a city called Bilbao. And I got involved in the cloud native world indirectly in 2018, when I was working at a company that was that had all of their infrastructure in Microsoft Azure, and it migrated to the cloud quite quickly. And then we're dealing with challenges in terms of resources, cost optimization, things of that nature. And at that point, they had enough of a reason to start using, at the time, some folks that are only familiar with Kubernetes may not know that there was another technology for container orchestration called Apache Mesos. And at the time, the company where I worked, they first started with Mesos and then eventually moved over to Kubernetes. And then a few years later, that's when I got the opportunity to start working in the Data on Kubernetes community, where I've been the head of community for over 2.5 years. And through that's how I got connected to the CNCF. And my experience has been extremely positive. I have to say that I never imagined that something like this actually existed. And I feel very lucky to be a part of it, because it's allowed me to meet people like you, and as well as folks from all over the world that are doing really exciting stuff. And with that in mind, how did you get involved in the CNCF in the cloud native world?
So it was like a nice journey. Like I have presented the talks various places, and also I have been to the various podcasts. So that's why I'm with you, right?
Yeah.
So talking about my experience, it was nice. Like I was previously in the ML side, ML engineering kind of a background. But when I saw like there is this thing called Exist, which is DevOps, and when I started learning about it and how it can automate various things, and it can solve my use cases around the ML just in the click. See, you can automate using CI/CD and stuff. So that's why I like the DevOps part more of the MLOps when I was dealing with say. So when we come into the DevOps, there are most of the projects which are used are in the CNCF, right? So CNCF, like Kubernetes, Prometheus as a home, which is CNCF, we say. So similarly, I understood like, yeah, these things are there. There is CNCF website where every projects are there. Just we have to go and check about the open source projects, and we can contribute also. We can learn from that also. So that's how I got introduced to the CNCF. And yeah, you say like I'm making the content on the same and trying to learn more daily. So that's what. So yeah, I guess we can continue with this space as I have a lot of doubts to ask you, and many people will be saying, right? So what was your goal when you started this community? Like DOK is now everywhere, right? So when you started, what issues you faced, and how it got started, right?
Wow.
So yeah. We would like to learn about this.
That's a super good question. And the thing is, I've thought about this enough to the point that maybe we'll have to talk to you about this, but like I want to create a video series on all the mistakes that I made, because there are hundreds, right? Like, I wish I could say dozens, but it's probably more like in the hundreds. But
I
the
would
thing is,
definitely watch.
yeah, and the thing is, like, it's not anything to feel bad about. It's just, when you don't know what you're doing, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. So
Right.
I had, prior to that, I had never really worked with like an online digital community. And so I was very new to that world. I knew a lot of people, in the local ecosystem in Spain, and also some abroad. But my idea of what a community was and how it needed to work was it's certainly not what it is now. All right. With that in mind, I highly recommend to anyone who wants to get involved in community work. There are communities for people who are in communities. There are books, there are videos, there are lots of resources out there. Do yourself a favor and go out and get informed, because I didn't really do that. And as a result, I learned a lot of other things, and I did things that I would not have necessarily done if I had only followed the literature. But it's still a very good idea to like get some background, listen to some podcasts, ask people, because people that are in the community space in general are pretty open. It's kind of their job. So like, people will be, if you have very specific questions, they'll be happy to help out. If you just want like free advice and you're not specific, then I wouldn't say it's the best approach. But no, it was tough. So like, when I got started, the community had done about maybe 5 live streams, and now we've done over 200, well over 200. And so when I got started, it was like, okay, there are these interviews with people that are very, very experienced, and I don't have a technical profile. So that was really challenging, because I can ask somebody a question and their answer might as well be in a different language, because I don't know what they're talking about.
Yes.
And so that was a difficult, learning curve in the beginning. And then over time, you start to understand what are the pain points of the people in your community. And I would say it doesn't matter that it's a data on Kubernetes community or any community. You have a certain profile of people that you're trying to help, and you want to make sure that you understand, what are their needs, what are they trying to achieve, and how can I help them? There's a method that's often used called jobs to be done, where you interview different people to see what are the things that they're trying to get done, what are the things that are difficult for them in their jobs, and based on that, how can you bring that knowledge into your community by asking the right questions, by getting the right people. So in the beginning, I definitely had a grasp already on social media, because of having worked with, promoting in-person events and things like that. But, this was August of 2020. So it was like right in the middle of the pandemic, and, very, very difficult time.
Yeah, right.
So lots and lots of people making videos, doing live streams, webinars, all this kind of stuff. And, the core message of the Data on Kubernetes community at that time was not one that a lot of people were aligned with, because in 2020, the idea of running databases, storage, machine learning workloads, things like that, it seemed to a lot of people it's too early, or like, why would you want to do that, or it seems risky. So there was a lot of work that we had to do to convince people that this was a good idea and it was going to add value, and not just that these are cool technologies, but it's actually, has business value and why people should do it. And I also have to say that for any community, you always want to be building opportunities to have like power community members, or sometimes what could be called ambassadors and things like that. So very lucky to have been connected to people like, Jeff Carpenter, Patrick McFadden, Rick Vasquez, Evan Powell, quite a few folks that, helped me a lot, because they have much stronger technical knowledge. And so their ability to, drive those conversations and ask the right questions to get people interested, that was very helpful. Our community is also unique because we don't host code, right? It's not like the CNCF or the Apache Foundation. The Data on Kubernetes community is not a foundation either. And so it's a place where people go to share knowledge, and it's also a vendor neutral space. So we have to make sure that the people that are participating aren't just pushing products or services, but are actually focused on open source technologies and how to use them properly and where it's going to fit best. So like I said, those things in the beginning were very challenging. It got easier over time. And now I look at things in a different way. I'm not ashamed of the fact that I don't have a technical profile. I'm very open about that. And a job of a community leader is often, is to know If someone has this question, I know I can get that person. If you have that question, I get another person. So a lot of it is about developing relationships. I would say 95% of it is about developing relationships. And based on that allows you to do the things that you want to do to achieve your goals.
Understood. Yeah, like to summarize, like it was really tough.
Yeah, yes.
And
No,
yeah,
horrible.
but
Yeah.
but if we think the positive side, you got connected with various technical folks where like you didn't had an understanding of this technical side of these things, right? Another thing, like you connected with various awesome folks in the technical background, and you were interviewing them, so it is not like anyone can do, right? And as we know, like data and Kubernetes has grown really well now, and like very like-minded folks are there who wants to learn about the cloud native space. If anyone wants to start journey of the cloud native, so they first think about the CNCF, second is DOK, for sure. So you have made that the end of achievement, right? So when I gone through the first doc, like data on Kubernetes, I had seen like various live streams and various episodes you were doing background at the KubeCon and various conferences, right? So this is not topic related thing, but how you manage the time, bro? How?
I asked, oh, and then you have to answer the same question because I don't know how you do it. That's a really good question. And the thing is, what I would tell people is that there's always going to be more stuff to do, and you have to accept the fact that you're not going to get to everything, and it's okay, and the world's not going to end. And in the beginning, because of not having that sort of academic background and community of understanding these are how communities work, so like you will definitely have to do this work here. Other stuff can be optional, or you can delegate or build out a team. And so in terms of time management, yeah, it got pretty crazy, but you always have to be thinking about and very strictly asking yourself, if I can only give 3 things to my community members, what are their 3 top needs? And the thing is, you may think that you know their needs, but if you don't ask them, how can you possibly know? And that's why I say, like, surveys are good to get quantitative analysis. Like, it is good. You also don't want to send a survey to your community like every 3 days, because then they get really tired and like, why are you asking me all these questions? But that's good. But then also, like I said, the qualitative analysis, like you sit down with people who can give you honest feedback, and that way you figure out, like, okay, I thought that this was a priority, but actually they're telling me directly it's something else. And if people feel like they're being listened to, then it makes it much easier to know. Well, it makes it, they feel engaged and they feel like you're respecting what they're asking you to do. So the time management thing, I have to say, is that it was bad. I mean, it was very bad, but in the sense of working, starting very early and finishing very late, because also remembering that we have people all over the world. And so in order to get, all the content that we got created, because sometimes in 1 week, we would do 3, 4, 5 live streams, and sometimes 2 in the same day. And it was crazy. And I didn't need to do that. And no one told me I had to do that. I did feel... I felt like I had to do it because, in the sense that, so that people would know who we were, and so that we would stand out. So like getting people from lots of different backgrounds, working on lots of different open source projects, and asking them the questions that were relevant to our community, even if their like day-to-day jobs didn't have a connection with some of the technologies, a lot of the technologies we were focused on. It was a way to say, like, I know that you're very respected in this ecosystem, so I'd like to know your opinion, because I think if I value it, I imagine other people will too. But back to the thing about time management, is that luckily, I would say as well too, is like, if you're in community and you're alone, it's going to be really, really hard. Find a way to get other people involved. And that can be people that are there in a professional sense, that are being paid, or finding other folks who can help out, be as specific as possible with whatever deliverables you need from them.
Right.
Saying like, I just need your help. It's like, yeah, but what do you need my help with? All right, please tell me exactly what you need. And so being realistic, understanding for everything that you're going to do for your community, how long does it take to do a live stream? It's not the amount of time the recording takes, or, I mean, like, there's all the stuff that happens before it in terms of promotion. There's all the stuff that happens afterwards in terms of taking the audio and making it a podcast, in terms of getting the slides and uploading them to SlideShare. There are all these other things that have to be done. So knowing your workflows, that's something that I took too long to actually solidify. But once I did, then things got a lot easier, because like, okay, we're going to have a talk. let's start the process. You get the speaker form sent out, you get the meetup created, you get all those things set up. But in the beginning, it was absolutely crazy. And the beginning lasted over a year, right? So it wasn't like the first 2 weeks, I mean, it really took a while for me to understand like exactly how things needed to be done. Luckily, our team grew as well. So I had really professional people coming in that have been able to help. But I would also say, like, for anyone who's starting out anything, I'm 37 years old. So you think like, oh, you're like, I've got lots of experience, but this is a very specific niche, working in communities. And so it's like anything, your first year, you're going to make, like I said, lots of mistakes, and you're going to learn. And then now, and then I'll have a lot more balance in terms of the time management. So it's good.
Nice. Like, so it lasted 1 year, so it is definitely really hectic. So yeah, like it is really nice to learn from you and understand what was the phases of problems and stuff, right? So to ask you more on this side, so people, when we think about the community, right? So many people think like after some days, some years, they think to monetize it, right? So what do you think, like any community builder should think on monetizing it, or it should be like they should focus on other type of things, right? Means they can also get the sponsors, right? Where they can means if they want to do the community help, they can invite the sponsors, and they can do the community events and stuff, that kind of thing. But some focus on the monetizing it. So is the goal of community for some people is just for monetizing? So what are the process, and can you tell more on the side, like?
Yeah, that's a great question. And it's something that if people read, like, as if you look in, to community resources, the two names you're going to see the most are John O'Bacon and Mary Thingwall, that have written books about this and given lots and lots of talks and podcasts. So like, I highly recommend checking that out. If people have the feeling, okay, so communities are all based on trust. And so trust is something that you build over many, many experiences. And because if it's for someone to trust you just off one interaction, probably unlikely. How many interactions does it take for them to start trusting you? It's different with every person, and it's not like an exact science. It's also one of the things that makes communities difficult from a traditional perspective of monetization, of how are we gonna set this up so that people start giving us money? Well, how much trust are you building, and how much value are you guaranteeing to these community members? It's normal that people see communities as a way to make money, because it's like anything in life, football, basketball, it attracts a lot of people. So then, advertising, all those things, it's always thinking about, okay, I put on a show and it gathers a lot of people. And then based on that, I can get more revenue, because advertisers will know that I have a large group that is a particular interest. And so they know exactly what to go for. Unfortunately, for that mindset, communities often don't mix well with that. And also is that if you don't monetize for a period of time, or for a certain amount of time in a community, and then you decide, now we're going to start using this to make money, be careful, because you can alienate some of your best community members that way. If they start to feel like, so the only reason why you've been doing this the whole time is so that eventually you can start making money, that will create a certain sense of betrayal. But like you said, there are different ways to monetize through sponsors. And also, what kind of sponsorship arrangements are you going to have? Some sponsors will expect, I've been asked so many times, so you're going to send us all the emails of the people who attended this event, right? It was like, no, because if I do, and people start getting unwanted and unexpected emails that they did not opt in for, you'll see in good communities, they allow you the possibility to opt in. It's not that like you're clicked, by default, that you're automatically going to be receiving lots of advertisements and emails and stuff like that. What I tried to explain is, like, if I give you those emails, the people who are attending my live streams now are no longer going to come back, and they're going to say very bad things because I've betrayed their trust. So there's once again the very more traditional sales and marketing mentality does not. I don't feel like it works that well in community. It can, if community members are informed from the very beginning, like, this is how it is. Okay, there's no surprise. But I would say with the monetization thing, it's normal and it's natural. Focus on creating and designing great experiences for your community members, and then you can kind of think about it later on. But I would mostly just like do good work, and then the rest will kind of just come along. You know what I mean?
Right.
And the better your community is, the stricter you can be when it comes to monetization of saying, yes, you're allowed to sponsor, but you're only allowed to do this much and you can't be intrusive, and you can only put things in the Slack channel because I don't want you bothering the other people, and and if you share anything that's directly product related, this can be a threat to your sponsorship. Of course, that's when you're in a position of luxury, that you have a very large community that's functioning very well.
Definitely.
Large or small, but functioning very well. My point is that I think that being too concerned about monetization from the very beginning, I think will end up conditioning your decisions to do things that won't be as beneficial for community members as they should be. And I think that should always be the primary focus. And so, like I said, I don't think there's any, I can't give, just one singular answer on that, because it depends.
Yeah. Right.
And because there are communities around, dog food, or like there's tons of different kinds of elements. We're obviously mostly familiar with DevOps, CNCF, things like that, and those have their own ways of some things that are that are paid for, and other things that are completely free. And so there are different options that are built into there depending on what someone's looking for. But I think that the monetization question, it's worth keeping in mind, but I wouldn't obsess over it too much. I would mostly just be thinking about, how can I make sure that my community members' needs are being met, and that they trust me? And that I always ask this question: why are people going to come to your community? Why are they going to stay? And why are they going to tell their friends? And you have to be designing that and providing value and meaning for them. And that's what's gonna, like I said, those are the things that make it happen. If you're the only one that's promoting it, on social media, it can work if you're good at promoting. But if you're doing something really good, you don't have to do the promotion, because people will be telling their friends, get in here. Like, this is where I'm getting these answers. I've had positive answers. So yeah, make sure that those things are happening.
Definitely. You mentioned various points, like so first was like, if you want to monetize, think twice what you want to do. Second thing, choose the sponsors really wisely, because first thing which matters in the community, which is trust. And if your sponsor is like asking you to share the image, and it breaks that first rule of your community, right? So yeah, that was the points. So I guess we covered most of the points, but to ask the most important questions, which I think never gonna ask to you long before on any podcast, right? So how come this name came, DOK, Data on Kubernetes?
So it wasn't. I didn't come up with the name, but it was essentially because of this. All right, Kubernetes was not originally designed for data, stateful, what are called stateful workloads, stateful and stateless. So it wasn't originally designed for stateful workloads in terms of databases and storage, ML, and AI, analytics, streaming, stuff like that. And so slowly but surely, some organizations started to do that. It was around 2016, I believe, that stateful sets, that used to be called pet sets, started making their way on there. And so that's when there was sort of like an official step that was being taken. And so with that in mind, different technologies started to emerge, whether it was, Vitess, whether it was OpenEBS in terms of storage, and other technologies in the Kubernetes ecosystem. And so some of the organizations that were behind those technologies decided, we need to have a place that's not just based on a company, where different people can come together and learn how to do this, because it's hard. All right. When we talk about data on Kubernetes, we're talking about day 2 operations. Right. So in terms of like a Kubernetes journey, it's not something some organizations will be thinking about in the very beginning. Now that there's a very good book about it by Jeff Carpenter and Patrick McFadden, showing the entire outline and explaining why data does need to be considered and needs to be taken more seriously because of the value that it can provide from a security standpoint, from using all the resources that Kubernetes has to offer, also being able to be more profitable as a company, and simplifying some of the issues around talent. Anyway, different things in that regard. So that's how the community got its name. And and since then, we've been able to do a lot of things, whether it's with experienced folks or others that are just getting started on their journey, which has been amazing. Because I always say this, is that until you can explain your technology or your open source project to beginners, I feel like you don't know what you're talking about and you can't explain it at all.
Right.
Yeah, and so it's been very
Right.
important for me that those people are also kept in mind, because those will be that's going to be the next generation of engineers who are going to be using these technologies. So get them exposed
Right.
at an early age, and it'll be much easier in the future. So I think that's worked well for us as well.
Yeah. So thanks for these points. Means like I just came to know about what was the past of the data on Kubernetes. So thank you for that. So asking more on these things. So you are planning different initiatives daily, weekly, monthly, yearly, right? So can you share like what is your upcoming initiative with our audience? Like
Yeah,
what you are planning more in the data on Kubernetes and
yeah.
what you want to see in which direction it will move now? Yeah.
That's great. So we've had, young people coming in to work with us as interns for the last year and a half, well, almost 2 years. And it's been one of the best things that we've done. And because we learned so much through their experiences. And what I always try to tell people is like, I come from a non-technical background. You don't have to be an expert. Like we really want to be as beginner friendly as possible, because we want people to be asking questions and know that this is a place where they can get help. So we first, when we were doing our co-located events in KubeCon, before each one, we would have a DOK Students Day. And so our interns and other students could come and they could give talks
Oh,
that were, short topics, and make it nice and easy. I would always train people. I'm a public speaking trainer, so like I would give people training on how to give a good talk, because some people had never given a talk before, and to make it as easy for them as possible. And then we'd also have other community members that have more experience coming in to give guidance, mentoring, things of that nature. So with that in mind, we've done now 4 of those, but then we've now changed the program, and now we call it DOK Explorers. So the idea, as the name suggests, is that they're exploring the different technologies that
oh,
are in the data on Kubernetes
nice.
landscape. And we're going to be doing an event on March 15th and March 16th, DOK Explorers Days, where they will be sharing their knowledge about particular topics related to operators, related to ML and AI, related to analytics, and related to streaming. And why those 4? We've done 2 research reports as a community, interviewing 500 different Kubernetes users about their opinions on data on Kubernetes technologies. And in the past, the focus has always been on database and storage. But now that these other workloads are starting to come into the Kubernetes ecosystem, we think it's really important to give them extra attention. So the talks that will be given by the DOK Explorers will be focused on those topics. We'll also have a workshop as just like complete introduction to Kubernetes for beginners. So like this is, once again, people don't need any experience. And then what we'll also be giving folks is that after the event, if they write a post on LinkedIn sharing what they've learned and tagging the people who spoke about it and sharing the links, we'll give them a certificate as a way of acknowledging their
Nice.
work. Because the thing is here is that we want to make it really easy for people to get experience, right?
Right.
And
Right.
so with the DOK Explorers this time around, that's exactly what we've done, is that like, you don't need to spend 10 hours. I'm going to give you a research report that's 15 pages, and it's mostly pictures and graphs. So it's very easy to consume. We understand there will be a lot of things that you don't know, and that's okay, and we expect that. What we expect you to do is to identify the things that you don't know, to go out and look for answers. And if you don't find an answer, you can use our Slack. You can ask different people. I will put you in touch with different people to get those questions answered. We're trying to teach people how to be curious, how to look for information, and how to share their knowledge, so that they can start developing their personal brands and make it easier for companies to hire them. If a company can see what you've done and the kind of things that you worked on, it's so much easier. If you say, I went to university, it's like, great, I did too. It doesn't matter that much. Show people what you
Nice.
can do, and it makes the decision-making process much easier for them.
Got it. Got it. Yeah, it is really nice initiative. Like it will help most of the people, most of the students who are starting their journey into the cloud native space, and not only cloud native space, they will learn about the ML, AI, and various things also. Right? You included that stuff also. So I think this will be the really nice initiative. We are actually on like we are just going to stop the recording in some time, our Bluetooth stream. So let's stop with last question, which is what do you think will be the future of Kubernetes, as you are with a nice guy to talk about?
Wow. Okay, that's a great question. So the future depends on the people who are going to be working in it. And with that in mind, like we are in a situation that unfortunately is quite difficult for some companies right now, and also trying to figure out, where is the real value in this. But it all depends on how, as a community, the CNCF is able to attract more people and to attract the best people. And so one of the things that I'm excited to be involved in is precisely that, getting people who might feel like they don't have a place in the CNCF into the CNCF, because I was very lucky that when I started getting involved more and more, that some wonderful people introduced me, pretty much took me by the hand and got me plugged in. And so the expression that we use in the CNCF is to pay it forward. And I'm a big believer in that, if you do good things to other people, naturally other good things are going to happen, because it just creates what we call like contagious generosity, right? And so I think the future is very bright, like as long as more and more people embrace that attitude. And also seeing as well, things like Kubernetes community days. Like I imagine you'll probably be involved in many of those, either in person or online, either giving talks or as an organizer. This is a great way to reach out at a local level, because let's face it, not everyone can go to KubeCon in person. It costs a lot of money.
Right.
So a lot of scholarship funds, and more folks are being able to go. Unfortunately, sometimes with stupid things like visas, people aren't able to attend it. It drives me absolutely crazy. But I think that things like that, and also local meetup groups, are great ways for people to get involved, no matter what experience, how much experience they have or they don't have. And so I think as long as these initiatives continue to grow and thrive, and there's some really good people working on them, like Katie Greenlee and Audra Montenegro, and a lot of and too many amazing people in the CNCF to name, I think the future is looking really, really good. I think that one of the things that I'm also working on is how to make it less overwhelming for when people arrive, because I understand that it is. There are a lot of resources about how to get started, but to make it easier for people to find those resources, both in terms of documentation as well as people who can help, I think that I'm really looking forward to see what we can do with this, because I think with a little bit, it's going to go a long way. Because I think a lot of people might arrive and they might think, "Woof, this is too complicated for me," and then they don't stay. And I understand that. So we want to figure out ways to help them generate value, generate an impact, and have a beautiful story to tell. And I'm pretty confident it's going to work.
Awesome. Thank you. Just to summarize everything, so you are saying like community future is really nice, and talking on the same. So focus on joining the communities which are in the local regions, and it's like focus on going to the KubeCon and Cloud Native Security Con. But if you can't go to the regional levels, like it doesn't matter. Like everywhere it is like you can learn various things. You can connect with various like-minded Cloud Native folks everywhere, right? So connect with them. Try to attend these regional levels. Try to attend virtuals like DOK as a virtual live streams and stuff, right? So go ahead with the same. So to conclude this session, today's Cloud Native Talk episode, I guess it was nice, and I will be continuing more in the future. We are really thankful, like Bart is here for attending this, and it was really nice to host you, right? So check out the what we say DOK Explorers, which will happen on 14th and 16th stuff, and you can follow the Bart everywhere. He's available on Twitter, YouTube, and everywhere, right? So go ahead. Thank you for attending today's Cloud Talks episode, and